Welcome to R3 Group. We're excited to dive into the first week of cow tipping part 2. This is just a really fun way of looking at a really serious issue, which is some huge misunderstandings in the church. And this week we're looking at a topic called first things first. And the idea here is that I have to clean myself up before I come to church. Before I can come into God's house, I got to get myself together first. And we as a church perpetuate that, don't we? It seems like when people come to church, everybody puts on their best face and they put on the facade and they pretend like they've got it all together. And they basically want to appear like everything's already fixed. But that's a lie. And we know it's a lie. In fact, let me prove it. In Luke chapter 5, we looked at a story of Jesus and a man named Levi and his call to follow. And we see that story in Luke chapter 5, verse 27 through 30. And it says this: Later, as Jesus left the town, he saw a tax collector named Levi sitting on his tax collector's booth. "Follow me and be my disciple," Jesus said to him. So Levi got up, left everything, and followed him. Later, Levi held a banquet in his home with Jesus as a guest of honor. Many of Levi's fellow tax collectors and other guests also ate with him. But the Pharisees and the teachers of religious law complained bitterly to Jesus' disciples, "Why do you eat and drink with such scum?" This forces us to look at a hard truth about ourselves. We're often Pharisees. Now, granted, you may not call anybody scum, but let's be honest. How often do we prejudge people based on things about them that are different, that are uncomfortable for us to see? This in our society is the single mom. This is the ex-con. This is the drug addict or the alcoholic. This is a person who is homeless or struggling to make ends meet. This is the prostitute or the homosexual. How often are we guilty of judging them and instead of loving them? And Jesus has a completely different approach to the broken of this world. First, as we looked at from Sunday, Jesus noticed Levi. Jesus sees the broken and empty in this life even when we overlook them based on our biases. Second, Jesus invited Levi. Not only did he notice him, he loved him. He gave him a second chance. He asked him to follow. He chose Levi. He openly embraced those on the wrong side of the line. Third, Jesus died for Levi. He sacrificed everything. See, Jesus came for the broken. His mission on this earth was to seek and save the lost. God so loved the world that he sent his son that whoever believes won't perish, but will have everlasting life. He came not to condemn the world, but to save it. See, if Christ didn't come to condemn, why is it that that is what his followers are so often known for? Jesus leaves us with the hard truth. The only people who can be saved are those who realize they are lost. The greatest and saddest irony here is that the Pharisees think they are good, that they don't need saving, and as a result, they're unsavable. And yet Jesus says there are no good or bad people. There are only those who know they are bad and those who don't know that. So as we just discussed this together as a group now, ask yourself this question and ask your group this question. Where are you guilty of being a Pharisee? Where are you guilty of looking on others with contempt where Jesus would look on them with love? Where do you need to have the heart and the spirit of Christ more? Discuss this as a group and then we'll jump in deeper with Reflect.
Have you ever played a game of hide and seek? I love a good game as much as the next guy, but right now this game has a special place in my heart. I have a 3-year-old son and his name is Asher, and right now this is his favorite game. Except that I don't quite think we're playing it right. See, Asher's version of hide and go seek is we go into our living room and we take a blanket and I cover him up on the floor while I'm sitting right next to him, and then I pretend that I don't know where he's at. He especially loves it when I go around the room and say, "Where's Asher?" and ask if he's behind the couch or if he's underneath some piece of furniture. Asher loves to play hide and seek, but he's not quite doing it right because the giggling mass that's hidden under a blanket that I covered him with kind of gives it away. This week as we were playing hide and go seek, I had an interesting revelation about myself, and that's that as an adult, I enjoy playing hide and go seek too. Except that I don't play it with my physical body as much. I play it with my heart, with my emotions, with my soul. I tend to build up walls to make barriers between myself and sometimes other people, sometimes between myself and God. I like to hide myself where I don't think anybody can see me. Sometimes it feels secure or safer, like I'm more in control. Maybe you can relate to that. I kind of think it's a human condition kind of thing. Because I was just watching a TV program with a couple who was trying to make some healthy decisions in their life. And in the midst of that, they went home after being with a personal trainer, and then they kind of settled back into their life. They gave up. And in the midst of the show, to make the show what it needed to be on TV, the producers, of course, confronted them about their lack of lifestyle changes, and there was a big dramatic confrontation scene. And here's the thing that got me. In the midst of that scene, the people who had gave up halfway through lied. They hid themselves. They tried to disguise the truth that they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing, and they lied about the accomplishments that they had done and the way in which they were doing exactly what the trainer asked them to do. They just weren't making the healthy changes that they wanted. It wasn't until they were confronted with the real evidence, it wasn't until they saw the photos and the videos that the producers had taken, it wasn't until the blanket was pulled back off of them that they came clean and admitted to lying. I kind of think that's the way that it goes. We all tend to think that we're doing a really good job of hiding certain things, that we can stop at any time, that it isn't that big of a problem, that I'm still in control of it. And so we think that it's hidden, that nobody knows, until in a moment, somebody pulls back the blanket and they reveal that they've known where we've been hiding all along. Again, I think this is a part of the human condition, that we like to hide. And if that's true, then it's also true, I think, that one of our biggest fears is being known, being exposed. When that blanket gets pulled off, when we don't want it to, when people see a side of us that we don't want them to see, something that we'd rather remain hidden. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's not my number one thing in life to sit here and record into a camera these things from my life and to post them on YouTube and to have them discussed in your living room. And yet, in the midst of that, I think we can find that we're all on a similar path. See, this is a human experience thing. This is something that's been with us from the very beginning. As a matter of fact, Scripture talks about this. You remember the story in Genesis about Adam, the first man, and God literally creates him out of the dust and he breathes life into him. They walk together in the garden. They spend time together. But then Adam makes a mistake and he chooses to partake of a forbidden fruit, and he makes a choice in the aftermath that passes along the heritage of human experience all the way down to us. He chooses to hide. Look at his own words in Genesis 3:10. He replied, "I heard you walking in the garden, so I hid. I was afraid because I was naked." And we've been hiding ever since. See, just like my son Asher, we think we're doing a good job at hiding from God, to hunker down, to hide ourselves under the blankets, to make sure that the things that we don't want exposed either to the world around us or to the God in front of us, that they're not seen, that we can remain in control of them. I want to let you in on a little secret though. God sees us. Listen to how the author of Hebrews says in chapter 4, verse 13. Nothing in all creation is hidden from God. Everything is naked and exposed before his eyes, and he is the one to whom we are accountable. God sees us. God sees us. He sees everything. He knows when we're sleeping. He knows when we're awake, and he knows if we've been bad or good. Wait, that's Santa. But the point is this, right? That God sees us. He knows us. He knows all the things that we try to keep hidden. It says that everything in creation is exposed and naked in front of him. So why are we hiding? And here's the beautiful thing, is that in the midst of all that stuff that we'd rather not have people know, the people that we are when nobody's watching, all the things that we'd like to keep hidden and not exposed, God sees those things, and while that may be terrifying on the surface, his response to that is incredibly loving. See, in the face of all of our iniquities, all the things that we'd like to keep hidden from God, that he sees anyway, his response is love. That he loves us, that he's kind of crazy about us, that he'd send his son to come to this earth and to die for us so that we could spend eternity with him. Listen to the way that Paul says it in Romans 5, verse 8. He says, "But God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners." God sees us, and he loves us, and he shows us a way to stand next to him in the light of his grace and in the presence of his truth. He gives us a way to be with him, to walk hand in hand with the God who loves us. In a word, he wants to see us be free. And this is the message of Jesus to Levi that Pastor Phil shared with us on Sunday from Luke 5. That when Jesus saw Levi, he gave him an invitation to follow. He invited him to be a part of God's family, to walk hand in hand with what God was offering him and to stand up next to him. So what are you hiding from? God wants to reach in to give you a hand up to help you stand in the light of his grace and his truth and of who he created you to be. He wants you to stop hiding because after all, we're not really hiding in the first place because God sees us. Maybe Asher actually has the game right after all. After all, the fun in hide and seek for Asher isn't in the hiding as much as it's in being found. How about you? Is it time to find the joy in being found by God instead of pretending to hide? I love you guys. I hope you have a great discussion tonight.